Proceed.
Welcome to Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt of the Marquardt Law Firm at marquardtlawfirm.com.
Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt, on the radio, on podcasts everywhere, on Facebook Live, on YouTube, and on talklawradio.com. If you'd like to be a guest or a sponsor of the show, go to talklawradio.com and click the button that you're interested in. I'll get an email and then I can contact you about being a guest to talk about whatever legal issue is bothering you that you want the public to know about. I'm going to have a guest real soon. Don't have him scheduled yet, but we'll be talking about Medicare. October is the month of open enrollment for Medicare, so that new people or people that want to change their Medicare plans can pick that. Sometime soon I'll be talking with a bank trustee about what it's like to have a bank trustee of a trust, and I'll be talking to somebody from a title company about exactly what do title companies do. So stay tuned for those upcoming episodes. Also coming soon is hunting season, whitetail deer season. The bow season starts in October, and the rifle season starts in November. And if you know me, you know that I'm a hunting enthusiast, like to spend time with my family hunting whitetail deer and wild hogs. So that's going to be fun and exciting, and I might have some best of rerun episodes coming up for that, but I'll try and keep the content coming. Why don't you let me know what your favorite shows are by emailing me at host@talklawradio.com, host@talklawradio.com, host@talklawradio.com. But back to the episode at hand, we're talking about the federal estate tax, the death tax, whatever you want to call it. And you can weigh in on this. Let me know what you think the estate tax exemption should be by calling the show at 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867. You can call today, Saturday, September 28th, 2024. Let me know whether you think the exemption should be $14 million per person, $7 million per person, or $3.5 million per person. I'm choosing those amounts because the current exemption is $13,610,000. Next year in 2025, I think it's going to be $13,990,000. And then it's going to expire at the end of 2025 unless Congress and the President do something to continue that current law. If they do nothing, then it reverts back to the old law, which was $5 million, but it's adjusted each year for inflation. And so we think based on inflation in 2026, it would be around $7 million-ish. If Kamala Harris is elected, she has proposed to make the estate tax exemption $3.5 million. Of course, she needs Congress and the Senate to pass a law to do that. And with the gridlock in place, how likely is that to happen? Tell us what you think. Well, we're going to go back to some statistics here. Currently, Section 2010 C3 of the Internal Revenue Code and Section 20.2010-1 E3 little I have the exemption set at $13,610,000. The Federal Reserve Board survey of consumer finances reported that the mean net worth of American households is $1.06 million. That's $1,006,000. Do you think that there should be a tax on already taxed assets? The death tax, essentially. The first time you pay taxes is when you earn the income to buy the things, and then the death tax taxes the things that are in your garage, your house, your car, your retirement accounts, your estate tax covers everything. The gross estate would, the IRS would want to value everything that you own. Does it matter who the president is? Well, I've already talked a little bit about that. Oh, another thing is a law that Bernie Sanders proposed. It's called For the 99.5% Act, and it would impose much higher taxes, 77% over $1 billion, $50 million to $1 billion. The tax would be 55%, and $10 million to $50 million, the tax rate would be 50%, and between $3.5 million and $10 million, the tax rate would be 45%. So something interesting about taxes, I learned when I was in Las Vegas. One of our educators said that a lot of people will ask, how do I reduce my federal income taxes? Well, one way to do that is to get a job that pays less money. Would you do that? Would you get a job that pays less money to reduce your federal income taxes? Usually what people say is they want to find deductions and exemptions and exclusions to keep the job that they have that with high pay and still pay lower rates. Well, how would you reduce your property taxes? Well, jokingly, somebody said, you could let your house fall into disrepair, or you could even burn it down, and the property would have a lower value, and so less property taxes. But that's just a joke, so don't really do that. Well, one of the tried and true strategies of reducing the likelihood that your estate would be taxed after your death because of the federal estate tax is to give away your money. So people talk about making gifts. You've probably heard about the annual gift exclusion amount. A lot of people think it's $10,000. Well, back in the olden days, the annual exclusion amount for gifts was $10,000, but it has been going up every year because of inflation. So this year, the annual exclusion amount is $18,000. What does that mean? That means if you give $18,000 or less, you don't have to tell the government about it. It's excluded. If you give somebody over $18,000, you have to file a 709 gift tax return, which will reduce your gift tax exclusion amount, which is also $13,610,000. It's the same as the estate tax exclusion amount, because back in the olden days when the government instituted the estate tax, people started just giving away their money, and so the government instituted a gift tax so that they would quit doing that. The definition of a gift under Internal Revenue Code section 2512B is property transferred for less than adequate and full consideration is deemed a gift. and interest in property gratuitously conferred upon another constitutes a gift. You can also find that definition at Treasury Regulation 25.2511-1C1. A lot of people will come into my office and say they want to sell their house to a loved one for $100. Well, any asset sold for less than fair market value will be deemed a gift by the Internal Revenue Service. So you can't get away from that by calling it a sale if it's less than fair market value. So what are some of the advantages and disadvantages of making gifts in order to reduce the value of your estate so that your heirs don't have to pay high estate taxes? Well, making what I call them naked gifts. Those are gifts without any protective covering. The advantages is that that's easy. All you have to do is write a check or, put your sofa in the back of your truck and drive it over to your kid's house or your friend's house. It's simple. It has some effect of accomplishing the goal of reducing your net worth. Some of the disadvantages are that it reduces your net worth. So you have to really be sure that this is what you want to do, because if you give away your money, it's gone. Then you don't have any spending power for that amount of money because somebody else has it. You lose control over what the gift receiver is going to do with that money or that property. And gifts made during your life are carried, the cost basis of those gifts is carried over to the gift receiver. So if you give away your house to somebody while you're alive, then your gift receiver sells it the very next day. They're going to pay capital gains taxes based on the difference in value from when you bought it and then when it's sold. So the difference there times the capital gains rate would be the capital gains tax. As opposed to if somebody inherits property upon your death, they get an adjusted basis. Usually that's an increased basis, becomes the fair market value on the date of death. So if they sell the property right after you pass away, chances are they're not going to pay any capital gains taxes because the cost basis will equal the fair market value. Anyway, that's a lot of talk about taxes, but that's the whole show today. I want to go back to letting you know what we're talking about, just so you can tell your friends to turn in. We're talking about the death tax, which is called the estate tax. It's a tax upon the transfer of assets upon death. Most estates don't pay estate tax because most estates are valued at less than the basic exclusion amount. This is known as the estate tax exemption. You may not know, however, that the large exemption amount is scheduled by law to be reduced at the end of 2025. And the presidential candidates also have plans for changing the exemption amount. Stay tuned to learn about what the law is going to be if Congress does nothing, what the presidential candidates propose, and then we'll give an overview of some things that I learned. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
This has been Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt, brought to you by the Marquardt Law Firm. You can learn more at marquardtlawfirm.com. And be sure to listen to the full Talk Law Radio show Saturday mornings at 11 on 9:30 a.m. The Answer.
Each week, attorney Todd Marquardt talks about the law. His mission with the Talk Law radio show and podcast is to help you discover your legal issue blind spots. In the beginning, God had one law. Don't eat from the fruit of that tree. Then came the 10 Commandments. Now we have federal, state, and municipal lawmakers that won't stop creating new laws. Laws that might impact you without you knowing it. Listen to the show and drop a line on Facebook or email host@talklawradio.com and let the host know what you think of the show, the topics you want to hear, and whether you want to be a guest.